Welcome to the Doo Divas Smells Like Money podcast. I'm your host, Suzan Chin Taylor, CEO and founder of Creative Raven, the firm that helps wastewater industry contractors and manufacturers unlock the power of digital marketing, AI, and PR to boost sales and opportunities. Whether it's through our online marketing and lead generation programs or providing a fully outsourced marketing department, we are passionate about helping businesses in the wastewater and civil infrastructure sectors not just survive, but thrive in today's digital world. Each episode, I'll be bringing you expert tips and strategies to help you grow and succeed. Let's dive in. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Doo Divas Smells Like Money podcast. Today, we are visiting with Ankita Sameer Patwa. Boy, I know that's a mouthful. Who is an engineer and an environmental manager, as well as the founder of the Green Solve. And so welcome to the show, Ankita.
Hi, Susan. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, well, we met through LinkedIn and we got to talking, and there's, of course, obviously the Indian connection, and then your father having a connection to, wastewater projects in India. And it was just, we just jived. And you brought up the subject, and a lot of people are familiar with the term carbon credits. But I don't think, and maybe I could be assuming this, but I feel like maybe a lot of wastewater operations, maybe the operators, contractors, and even municipalities may not realize that some of the upgrades that they're doing in their systems, that they're already making can potentially qualify for these carbon credits. And in some cases could even become a revenue stream for them. But, before we get into the whole carbon credit thing, you brought up something, before we came on the show about carbon accounting, which was, I knew about carbon credits, but I had never really been familiar with the term carbon accounting, and you enlightened me on that. And so I think that would be really of great interest to our industry and our listeners, because the two really kind of work hand in hand, and you have to kind of understand both of them. So maybe give us a quick crash course on what exactly is carbon accounting, and then how do the carbon credits play into that?
All right. I think that's a great question, Susan. Every time I give an introduction about myself, I try to explain. If I'm trying to explain what I do, I try to break carbon accounting and carbon credits in the simplest way possible. So carbon accounting is like maintaining a spreadsheet, almost like a financial spreadsheet where you count dollars. But here you're counting your emissions, how much you emit and how much you reduce. In the simplest way possible, that's your carbon accounting. Carbon credits, I would say it's almost like a coupon, anything like a gift card that you would generate from optimizing your operations, which means that carbon credit is generated when you avoid or reduce carbon emissions from the atmosphere. So once you get that coupon, you can, as you would use a coupon anywhere, you sell these carbon credits to industries that would use them to offset their own emissions coming from their manufacturing, coming from their any operation stream, or you can retire, you can use your carbon credits to optimize your own carbon footprint and meet your own ESG goals. So when you talked about revenue potential, a lot of operators, a lot of municipalities, a lot of manufacturing industries that have wastewater don't realize that you're already making the optimizations to improve your system, because electricity is sky high, gas is sky high. So you're optimizing your process, you're optimizing your operations anyway, but there's so much revenue, there's so much financial potential with these optimizations that you would anyways make.
So most people are familiar, carbon credits, but I think there's a lot of maybe misnomer or misinterpretation that it's only for the big guns. It's only for these major corporations or major facilities. And, people don't understand that really anybody can get started with this, including smaller wastewater treatment plants. And so I'd like you to maybe touch on that. And you mentioned the term, ES ESG, or your goals, and what all that means. And that I think that some of these initiatives, they're not out of reach as many people might think. And I really wanted you to speak to that for our audience.
Yeah, that I think that's a good question. I think that it's very misunderstood that sustainability is only for the big players. It's only for mega manufacturers and your big fours, your big threes in automotive, Ford, GM, Chrysler, like bigger players in the industry.
Right.
I think that's a big myth because if you consider sustainability, break it down into projects, every single small manufacturer can do it and reap the benefits of implementing sustainability, not just financially, but of course, you can do this to optimize your operational efficiency. And at the end of the day, every manufacturer, whether big or small, um, craves the operational efficiency. You want to maximize your output. You want to maximize your efficiency, your line throughput. You want to reduce your bills. So it's a myth that it's only for big players. And how you can get started. Before that, ESG stands for environmental social governance. So when companies take initiatives, you probably have people have heard about Apple. They have a net zero target of reaching net zero carbon emissions by 2050. What that means is that's one of their ESG goals to optimize their overall production, including their supply chain, where they're sourcing their parts from, raw material from, to come to that net zero emission. So that's how ESG fits and how companies strive for better sustainability. And ESG could be in environmental, it could be in social, it could be in governance. So making sure you do not have any regulatory non-compliance fits under governance. Making sure your laborers are paid fairly falls under social. Again, operational efficiency, wastewater, solar implementation falls under environmental. So this is where your ESG goals, and for smaller manufacturers, I think your easiest start, particularly since we're talking about wastewater here, I can give you 5 examples where you can implement or start implementing processes where you can start earning carbon credits or start developing carbon credits. One is energy efficiency. So I think we are very familiar with wastewater being very energy intensive.
Mhm.
So because you have lots of pumps, you have lots of blowers, you have motors that consume a lot of electricity. So and efficiency, like energy, improvising your equipment is one factor in starting to earn carbon credits. Wastewater in itself generates or emits carbon dioxide. It emits methane, CH4, like for biogas, and then nitrous oxide. Now, keep in mind, these are part of your greenhouse gases, which is why improving your processes not only helps you earn carbon credits, but it's also you're contributing to a positive climate change in action. So one easy update, one easy fix would be change your boilers, change your blowers, improve your pumps, improve your rotors, use VFDs. VFDs is variable frequency drives. So it's basically an equipment that can control your motor speed. So you're not using full energy, you're only using as much as you need. That's one of the ways where you can start earning carbon credits. Second is because it is energy intensive, you're using a lot of electricity. Most of the wastewaters run 24/7, if not even 2 shifts, right?
Right.
Uh, so solar implementation of renewable energy. So solar implementation is a second way in second option in your wastewater, which can help you earn carbon credits. Third would be waste to energy. And when I say this, it is use of methane, converting it to energy, or even using it up as a fuel source, as an energy source, and you're kind of getting dual benefit here because you're not only saving on your electricity, but you're also avoiding the methane that goes out in the atmosphere, right? So I think these are
Burning
the three.
off, the burning
Mhm.
off, right?
Covered lagoons. So anytime when you capture methane, methane is 28 times more harmful as a pollutant in the greenhouse gas family. So you get, if you have a wastewater plant that has anaerobic operations, pretty much if your water has organic matter, it's going to break down into methane. So if you have methane as or anaerobic reactions happening at wastewater, then diversion of that methane before it goes into the atmosphere is your highest impact improvement to start earning carbon credits.
Wow. Okay. So now when you're talking about, these were great examples. So that's one way, when we think about it, the difference when you're thinking about a plan upgrade of just doing a plan upgrade
Mhm.
and doing a plan upgrade that actually could earn you carbon credits. It's as simple as those examples of choosing the right type of energy efficient tools, or maybe bolting on the ability to produce renewable gas as part of it,
Right.
do those credits. And those current credits add up to money, which leads me to that question of, if a facility happens to generate more credits, and I think you touched on this a little earlier, than it
Mhm.
needs, what happens next? How do they actually turn that into a revenue source? And how difficult is that to do?
That's a again, I love this conversation, Susan, because these are the conversations I feel like I'm talking and explaining to a board member in terms of why you should be making the changes, why is it needed? Because oftentimes like sustainability is an afterthought, which I don't agree with. Sustainability cannot be an afterthought if you implement it or integrate it early on in the design phases. Um, it brings a lot of money on the table. Like it's a very good revenue stream. So if you think about it, one is to get to the carbon credits. One, you have phases, right? One is your baseline emissions. So when I say you get carbon credits, one, you need to know what is you have to define your baseline emissions. So for example, if my facility was using 500,000 kilowatt per hour annually, and that was my baseline emissions. If I now implemented solar at the facility, and my after that implementation, my electricity usage is 300,000 kilowatt per hour annually. That's the difference. You're saving 200,000 kilowatt hour annually. So
Right.
when you multiply that with your grid factor, you come down to a unit of so carbon credits is measured in tons of CO2 equivalent, metric ton of CO2 equivalent. So you
Okay.
start generating credits. So for example, like I said, if you were saving 200, if you were saying, and I have this example written up because I definitely wanted to talk about like actual numbers in how it would look like if energy, if we implemented sustainability changes. So one, if we were to implement that solar changes, you are looking at generating at least 200 credits from saving the 200,000 kilowatt per hour annually. Now, an average, once you determine your calculations, you have to first define your baseline. Second is implement the actual measure. Third is monitoring data. Now, the most reasons why companies feel this is so hard to get started is you do not have the data. You are tracking data here and there, but you do not have it at one-stop shop for the data. Your utilities are built somewhere else. Your boiler information, for your wastewater, pretty much most of your information is in a SCADA system. So pulling all that information out, monitoring that data is very crucial here because that data helps you then validate your operational changes. So, like we said, baseline, determining your baseline emissions, implementing the actual implementation of your process upgrade, monitoring that data, validating that data, and then submitting that to a third party auditor. So this would be, and keep in mind, like when you are validating that data, when I say validation, this is validation with some of the international approved methodologies. So this comes from Vera Gold Standard. These are pretty
Mhm.
common, reputed names in the industry that have methodologies to rate these improvements, and
Right.
then decide whether your improvement is actually, adding value, and looking at the data. So you submit your data. Bless you. You submit your data to the third party auditor. They validate your data. And then once validation, you need to have the monitoring period of that data needs to be for a year. So it cannot be like, okay, I'm going to make solar improvements today and I'm going to submit my application tomorrow and then just get carbon credits. So the timeline for roughly from you determine your baseline to your methodology to that implementation to that data monitoring, roughly for a medium scale, small to medium scale project, takes around 9 to 15 months.
Okay.
So let's say if you've made an upgrade and you already have the data, you can speed up your process. The timeline would be 9 months for you. The
Right.
review period, yeah, the review period with the third-party auditors generally takes a couple months, 4 months, depending on how clean your data is. Once that's validated, you are assigned a unique number like your coupon of carbon credits once your data is validated. And now these carbon credits is something that you can sell. So there are marketplaces, and GreenSolve has a marketplace. So or Carbon Mark, these are the companies, or there's more in the industry that offer carbon marketplace where you can list your carbon credits, and industries like Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, they because they're tied to regulatory requirements in carbon credits, they have a cap credit requirement. These are the industries that would generally reach out to buy the credits.
Okay. I kind of like that. So it's kind of going out on the open market. And
Yeah,
so, I guess the pricing for the credits can vary widely,
100%,
and it can get
100%.
I imagine it can get very competitive. Okay.
Now, here's the trick. Here's the trick. Your pricing for the carbon credit is something that it ranges from like $5 to $80. And I know that's a very wide range, but
Right.
now that your the more I talk about it, I feel like I'm already in a course, like explaining to the board. But I'm absolutely loving this because I want to share this with everyone because it's so new. When you talk about like price range, and I think this is the most common question that I always get, like,
Right.
um, how is the money coming in? Like, how do you guarantee this money is going to come in? Because that's the first question when you are investing in wastewater upgrades or any equipment upgrades. They're not cheap. So if you're going to be spending
Right.
$80,000, $100,000 in equipment upgrades, then what's that ROI going to look like? So and that's a very common question. So carbon credit pricing varies by the impact of the project. So if you're going to make so if you're going to make like simple changes into your energy, the price, these are considered like quality of carbon credits. Now, like I said earlier, methane is more harmful to the environment than CO2. Hence, methane has high, anything you do with methane avoidance, reducing methane, or like even capturing methane or capturing carbon dioxide, this is something that you're even avoiding to get into the atmosphere. So projects like these have a better price range when you generate credits from that.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Hmm.
All right. All right. So now a lot of this, it almost sounds like to me, the more that you plan ahead for what you're going to need to get these credits and validate them, the better. And so, you know, it's not a giant initiative, but it does take some planning and some forethought to do this. And so as someone that's been doing this and helping people do this, what have you seen as been one of the biggest, common mistakes that organizations make when they're trying to quote unquote, chase these carbon credits or get them, where just because they didn't know, they do something and then it fails, and then they walk away saying, oh, this doesn't work, it wasn't worth it. And it may not have been, it's just because you didn't go about it, or there was something that you missed along the way that could have changed that ROI or that outcome for you. What are you seeing some of those things that you would advise people need to be out, on the lookout for, that could
Mhm.
derail what they're trying to achieve?
Okay, so this is a great question because ROI is the first thing. I think since I've been working in this industry for almost 8 years now,
Right,
with different leadership, different vendors, I think the first question that generally everyone asks is, well, how soon are we going to get the carbon credits? When are we seeing the money? When are we going to start seeing the revenue? Because that's the explanation that they look out first before even starting to implement any system upgrades. So if one, I think, like I said earlier, if sustainability is an afterthought, you're going to end up being into a loophole where you keep planning about, hey, yes, we want to meet our ESG goals, we want to do this,
right,
but we're not willing to think about sustainability or put in that money ahead to make those system upgrades, because sustainability, you cannot be sustainable overnight. Like you cannot be a
right.
millionaire
Can't.
overnight. So it takes time. So I think having that patience, or looking at it at a long-term project, when you're looking at carbon credits, you're going to have to keep in mind that you're looking at a year to 12 to 24 months, 2 years of time to actually have that system upgrade. These days, equipments have 12 months of lead time. So you need to start planning ahead. That's the one common mistake that I've pretty much seen in most leadership. I think the second one would be monitoring the data. So you need to also invest in systems or ways, or work with your vendors, work with these days you have so many, like Veolia is a wastewater operator, right? They manage wastewater systems for as a third party solution. So companies, anybody that operates your wastewater, make sure your data is very clear. I think not having data becomes a frustration in between the process. When you're already collecting the data, you've made the system upgrades, but you cannot pull out the data, not maintain the data. I think that I've seen projects getting shut off because we did not have the data. We could not get the data, and then management just decided to pull the plug on it, and instead buy the credits, or basically just look for different ways to generate, meet their carbon credits or ESG goals, basically.
Right. Well, because you've seen this, I was wondering if you'd be able to give me, maybe one or two examples of upgrades that you're seeing that are happening right now that could have become these opportunities, these carbon credit opportunities, if only they had had the right documentation, or perhaps a wastewater improvement that could generate these carbon credits that's being overlooked or not being recognized as a source for this, in your experience, in what you've been observing out there right now.
I think the biggest changes is one of the recent, we're actually on our, in between our phase 2 for our wastewater upgrade currently. So and this has been an ongoing discussion for the last few years. And we could have started generating these credits much earlier than we actually decided to design a new wastewater, just by simple pump upgrades, blower upgrades, installing VFDs. I think these are like some of the most simplest upgrades, because you're going to need a motor, you're going to need a pump, you're going to need, no matter what, irrespective of the technology or the system that you have in wastewater. These are some of your It's like the heart of your wastewater that keeps the system running. So simple upgrades, energy efficient upgrades like these start generating credits that you miss out on. The other easy one would be use of like membrane filtration. Like these days, you have ROs, you have UF, you have so many filtration systems. Whenever you implement like a filtration at the end of your effluent stream, installing that effluent or a filtration system is one of the other technology upgrades that can easily qualify you into being eligible for carbon credits based on approved methodologies. So like I said, high impact technology upgrade and then avoidance of methane. These are like your two high impact ways for companies to start generating. I think these are very much overlooked as an easy upgrade. Solar, easy peasy. You're gonna generate carbon credits with simple energy efficiency. You're changing your source electricity. That's one of the even if you do not have a wastewater, but you just have a manufacturing line, switching to solar can be an easiest way to make you eligible for uh, earning carbon credits.
And I imagine the data capture for that would be fairly simple for any of, those who are listening that have put solar on their home. You see, what you were paying on your baseline. And then
Yeah,
after you start and what you're selling back to the grid, it's the math is right there in front of your face. And so I
yeah.
like that idea that, using that may be one of the quickest ways because it's easier. It's probably very easy to document and capture
Easy to
data
document. Right. Easy to document, easy to maintain, easy to track,
and
um,
easy to validate.
easy to validate. Because you can see the difference in you pretty much if you come to a point, if you're living in, I think one of the other hurdles where people face in solar implementation is the weather where they live in. So I
Right.
think if that's not a concern for where you're located, then that's one of the most easiest way to be eligible for carbon credits.
Right. You've got to have the sunshine. That's why there's so much solar in Arizona because how many days of sunshine we get. So, Ankita, what I'd really like now is for you to tell our audience, what is your role in all of this and how you help organizations, you know, get started on this path for carbon credits. And if they need some help or they want to explore this further, how they can get in touch with you to begin that conversation.
Sure. So again, I use this as in my introduction. Like I'm a engineer by passion and profession, and I'm at an intersection for wastewater engineering and carbon credits, where I help companies firstly evaluate their project, help you understand what works for you, and not just carbon credits, with carbon accounting, understanding your own operations, knowing your emissions, knowing your own carbon footprint, and what are the possible solutions where you're leaving money on the table. What are your potential opportunities? One, to optimize. It's not about just having papers together and then just submitting for something, but my core fundamental reason why even I started the business and started helping industries is to optimize manufacturing. Because as a passionate engineer, that's the one thing that I enjoy the most. So we help companies optimize their process, improve their own efficiency, help them right from carbon footprint. So I think what you asked, what's the biggest struggle is the documentation. So we can help you collect all this documentation, maintain it at one place. We use AI to automate a lot of data also, which kind of streamlines the process. So when you're saying we're collecting data, it takes months, we can do it in maybe fewer months than it would normally take anybody to gather it manually. So yeah, I think that's where we help the industries implement these. We also help them submit the projects for validation. So it's an end to end. So it's a one-stop shop.
Mm, all right. And so if they want to speak to you about this, what's the best way to learn more about the green source and how to get in touch with you?
Well, you can, I can leave the details with Susan. You can visit our website. I will also share my contact details. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn or my email. Would be happy to help answer any questions and any queries.
All right. Well, we will make sure that we include all of that information in the show notes for anybody that would like to reach out to her. And so, again, thank you for coming on the show and, sharing your knowledge and just, I guess, insight about this subject it's very interesting. And like I said, to put some clarity on
Mhm.
things that maybe have been misunderstood or misinterpreted or thought to be beyond the reach. And so
Right.
thank you so much for, telling us that it isn't out of reach. It is
Mhm.
possible. You just have to plan and go about it in the right way. And so,
Absolutely.
yes. So thank you for sharing all your time with us. And thank you, audience, for spending your time with us this week. And until next time, keep it flowing. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. If you're ready to take your marketing to the next level and start increasing sales and opportunities for your business, reach out to us at Creative Raven. We're here to help you thrive in the digital landscape. Visit creativeraven.com or click the link in the show notes below to schedule a call and learn how we can support your growth. If you enjoyed the insights on today's episode, be sure to hit subscribe so you'll never miss an update. Until next time, keep growing and keep it flowing.